You sure this thing is safe, Damien?
Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be?
Well, I'm pulling you down the hill now.
Here we go!
As an artist, I find it's great to look for different perspectives, different angles on the subject matter, whether it's up high, down low. I always find sort of when I'm walking around, to me that can look a little tedious. It's something that we always see. So for this one, I'm going to get down low and get that lovely perspective on the building. Let's see how I go.
Because it is quite amazing the difference in elevation, what it can do to a subject. What I suggest, next time you're out, just give it a try. You can see that lovely low level elevation that I have there. Just change the perspective. It can make a simple shape, which is really just a big box with a little triangle at the top, look more dramatic, more interesting. It really does almost make it a more heroic sort of looking angle. That's why I love the low lying, or on certain occasions up higher. So now I'm just getting this figure into place first. So I employed my favourite technique of just throwing down a little bit of paint and then just wiping off where I need those big shapes. It stops you from sort of fiddling and playing with the paint, and also not looking for too much detail too early. I do love a sense of detail, but always right at the end. So now I've just got those big shapes well and truly locked in. I realised I didn't really need to go super dramatic, so I've just pared it back just a little. But it always is better to be more dramatic and tone it down a little than sort of that middle of the road, plain Jane, and trying to make it more interesting. So I think that's the point with this one is looking for angles, looking for ideas, approaches, whether it's colour, whether it's brushwork, whether it's tonal contrast. And with this one, it's more about the perspective, what can be done. So once again, I'll have a slightly exaggerated idea, but then I can pare it back a little, just tone it down a little. You can see some of these really strong values. The fact that it is painted blue in pretty close to direct sunlight, it's going to show quite a bluish blue. And also the great trick is to overdo the colour and contrast, or the warmth or the brightness of a pigment. Because once again, with oil paint, we can tone things down, we can simplify, we can muddy things up. So I'm getting that foliage in now, and I always see my foliage as a backdrop or as a device, just to tie shapes together. You can see how the foliage kind of ties in with the building. That's just a marvellous device to use in your composition as well. And also it does take the pressure off, because we're so often we're sort of thinking, oh, all those leaves, I can't paint foliage. Green and foliage are the colour green and foliage are the two real historically difficult ones for not all artists, but definitely most artists. And it's normally just practice and awareness, and if you have trouble, get some advice from a person who paints foliage really well, or the area that you're having trouble with. Nothing like going to a specialist. If we've got something wrong with us, we may go to see a doctor. If he's not sure, he'll send us to a specialist, someone who really knows their stuff. So just starting to come back in on that second stage of this foliage. Many areas will take 2 or 3 goes. The skies I normally like to get in one go, if possible, but doesn't hurt, as you can see now, just to come back and just fine tune, especially down into the foliage. It's quite easy to get a bit of a hard line on our foliage. That's why a lot of times I'll bring the sky in much, much later. But this is just a good example how we can break things up. Just got my little straight edge. And the tricky part with this type of subject is not making these timber chamfer boards too strong, because they can become a little overdone and almost a little cliched actually, because it's almost like a directional line saying, okay, I want you to look here, or look at the figure, or look at the door. So it's something that quite often I'll put them in and you know what, I've overdone it, or the other thing is to get them out of alignment, because they need to be perspective wise correct, but also not really parallel, but going back down to our horizon line to make sure we've got that all correct. So I've got that big hog hair coming back in now. Definitely, there's the old saying, courses for horses, or horses for courses, whatever it is, but definitely brushes for different areas as well. So we can see that I'm really sort of loading up that brush. So I've got the sky, especially this sky, as thin as possible, so that that'll naturally recede. The foliage in the mid-distance and the buildings is a little more textured, but then I'm really trying to build up the texture, build up that thickness of paint in the foreground. So that's another artificial way, or another way of just building up the sense of depth and distance, because I'm going to have to anchor that figure in. Oh, and just a little thing to mention, the figure wasn't really there. I just photoshopped her in. That's why it's great to have a good catalogue of figures, because I thought this was from about 2002 or 3. We were at a festival for old-fashioned stuff, and this figure was just perfect, and I think it really suits the overall motif, that sort of going to the boathouse, putting stuff away. So see how you go.